Good morning. Welcome to Talking Raw. So I figured I'd do one of these as well. My voice is a little screwy, but we'll get through it. All right, we'll get through it. So I'm sure Eastern Shore Farmer will be thrilled to death because he's in love with my gorgeous looks. He just loves me. Anyway, with that being said, it's a joke, guys. The Eastern Shore Farmer is not a homosexual, even though sometimes I wonder. But he's probably getting a kick out of this anyway. But yeah, he's got a sense of humor that I can relate to. I'm sure his fiance, he did ask Miss Stacy or Miss Eastern Shore Farmer to marry him, and I'm like, holy hell, this would be fun to watch. I hope I get invited to that wedding because it would be a whole lot of fun to watch. I'm sure he'll do something and she'll do something back to him, and it's always going to end like this. That's how that ends, and I love it because, you have to marry your opposite, and, you're opposite and you're equal at the same time. If you can manage those two tasks, then you've got a match made in hell. I mean, heaven. But anyways, we're going to talk about crops, and then we're going to talk a little bit of politics, not much, but just a tiny little bit, because, well, we could talk about politics first and what's happening with the grain markets and why they're the way they are. So yesterday, or the night before last, the Ukrainians blew up the bridge that links Russia to the Crimea Peninsula. Okay, so the Ukrainians blow it up, and Vladimir's a little pissed off about that. He's like really pissed off about that. So what he did was he said, okay, Ukraine, you fucked up. Now you are not going to be able to, ship grain out of Ukraine. We're not going to allow the shipments anymore. So what happens there is that the wheat price jumped, boom, 20 cents a bushel. 20 cents a bushel, then it dropped back down, and that was in the morning, and I don't know what it did yesterday afternoon. I haven't looked. I guess I probably can, and I probably will. As a matter of fact, I'm going to, just because I'm, interested now that I've started to talk about it. So what is wheat price on the open market? Grain prices and market reports. So wheat, hold on here. Wheat, oh wow, $5.75 is what they're paying for wheat. It's up 10 cents. For September. I don't know what's going to happen with wheat. All right, that's wheat. No, that's corn. Hold on. Wheat. Up 9 cents. So September wheat's only up 9 cents. It's running at $6.65. I think that was the high. $6.65 for September. That's the high. So a year ago, it was like $12, $13 a bushel. And then they allowed Ukraine to dump some wheat out onto the market and, get her going. I don't trust that market report. And the reason I don't trust that market report is because up until yesterday, they allowed wheat to leave the ports. Now, are they going to be serious about it? Which I believe they are serious about it. But those boats that were loaded up the day before yesterday have left their ports. They're out through I believe the Black Sea, or whatever the hell sea it is up there, and out into the world, into the open seas to make it to their destinations. But today, there's none going to leave the port. So everything's fine and hunky-dory for the next 5 days, in my opinion. Now, this is just opinion, and you don't have to listen to my opinion. I'm just some stupid jackass from New Jersey that doesn't know what he's doing half the time. But you've got those ships that are out there. It takes about 5 days to get a ship from 5-6 days from Ukraine to wherever it's got to go. Just say all those ships in 10 days will have met. See, that's the thing. They have met their met their destinations, have been unloaded, and those boats are then empty and moving on to another port to pick up grain, or even were attempting to go back to Ukraine to pick up more wheat and send it out. Wheat and sunflowers and corn, that's what they grow over there primarily. So in the next 10 days, I suspect the price of wheat is going to go up, which is good for us, anybody that's grown wheat. It is poverty grass. I grew it as a cover crop, and it looked good, so I decided I'm not just going to drill through it, put beans through it or corn through it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna harvest it, and I did. The majority of, or not the majority, just a portion of it. 360 acres. I had 700 and some acres that were put into. What was it? No, I had more than that. Anyways, it was like a quarter or a third of what I had seeded down between rye and wheat. And oats. I did put some oats out this spring that I planted corn through, and I should probably take a look at that today. We had rain up there, and it's a sandier soil. It dries out quickly, needs rain about once. It's got wet spots in it. Obviously has wet spots in it. Everything has wet spots in it. So I don't suspect that the wheat market or even the corn market to increase at all for at least 10 days, because those boats have not, the shipping from Ukraine has not really, been affected just yet. It's coming though. I'd give it as long as 2 weeks, as long as 2 weeks, and then there's going to be some interesting things happen in the wheat price. That's just my opinion. Now, from what I understand, up in the upper Midwest, the Dakotas and Wyoming, and those wheat producers are in a world of hurt. Right on up into Canada, spring wheat is trash. I saw Welker's, and I swear to God, that wheat was only a foot tall maximum. I haven't seen them on YouTube, but I saw them on Instagram, and I just shook my head. I'm like, holy shit, that's that bad. And then somebody sent me a text message, or not a text message, Instagram message, or even a YouTube comment talking about the price of spring wheat in Canada and upper Midwest. How spring wheat was like almost $11, and the Canadian price was 13 and a half or so. But we're not seeing that here. And I do believe spring wheat, you can get soft red spring wheat and hard spring wheat. I'm not 100% sure, because we don't grow spring wheat here. We can. It's not usually a successful crop, but we can grow spring wheat here, but it's generally not worth the time to do it. My uncle did it a few years ago. I did it back in my dad and I did it in the 80s. I was a kid. I should say my dad, I planted it, and I thought it was oats, but it wasn't. We were going to plant oats, and then we didn't plant oats because the price of wheat had climbed, and they were going to ride that high of spring wheat, and we never did harvest it. We put it into, I believe we just no-tilled corn into it way back in 1985 or 6 or whatever it was. I was just a kid. It's you look at these disasters around the country, and then if you look at Farmhand Mike's Instagram page, I don't think he posted a video on it, but he's out in Colorado, and the corn fields that he was showing were stripped down to the ground by hail. Farming with Duffy Ag, he just got stripped down by hail. His will recover, but it will impact the yield. All over this country, there's issues. There was a derecho a few weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. There was a tornado that twisted up, if you saw, I think it was a Millennial Farmer, tornado twisted up this guy's farm and completely destroyed the whole entire farmstead, tractors included, and he went down and did some work for them. So, and I know these things happen all the time, and the internet has made it made people more aware of what's going on around the country. And for some reason, now here's where the politics come in. For some reason, when you see hundreds of thousands of acres affected by drought, 10,000 acres tens of thousand acres affected by a hailstorm, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of acres, 100,000 acres of corn stripped to the ground, and the fringe fields around it that are, all of a sudden they're, it's a shadow made my arm look weird. The fringe fields around it that got shredded a little bit, but not destroyed. Those fields are impacted. And then you go to Nebraska and you see in the corners of the pivots, the corn is only this tall because of drought. What the hell's going on? It's like there's so many different disasters that are happening throughout this entire country. I know that up in Wisconsin, the How Farms Works group, those guys up there, they were going through hell with dry weather. I talked to their father. I don't, his name is Dwight, and their parents, Dwight and Beth, they're really good people. I really like the Kisters. They're good folks, and they're definitely worth watching. They're not so much the glitz and the glamour of new equipment and look what I bought and look where I'm going and all this stuff. They're a lot like myself, but a cleaner mouth. I don't give a damn if people want to criticize me for the way I talk online. You will meet me, and I will not be any different in person than I am online. And I can honestly tell you that there's a lot of folks out there that when you meet them, you're like, and you got a twin brother, twin sister, because you're nothing like what you are online. And it is a persona that they put out there to attract crowds of people that say, "Ooh, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe." I don't give a flying fig Newton if you subscribe to me or not. I got that. And that was just my goal. I never, ever wanted to get to 1 million subscribers. It was never my goal. Actually, that was never my goal because that didn't exist when I started this. When I started YouTube back in 2008, that didn't exist. It just wasn't a thing. And then when they started handing those out, I was like, wow, maybe that'd be cool to get one of those. And I got it. And you can see the dent in it. Teresa dropped it, and she's like, oh, I hope you're not mad. I'm like, I don't care. It's called battle scars. I mean, I've got them all over my body. And, that was just a casualty to the cleaning crew and, my wife. But, you see these disasters throughout the entire country. And for some stupid reason, it'll jump and then it'll be like, we got to put the brakes on because we don't want these farmers to get too far ahead. We got to put the brakes on. Pump the brakes. We don't want John Q. Public to have to pay too much money for their food because if they got to pay money for their food, they're not going to reelect us, which is true. The thing in Ukraine, totally preventable. Totally preventable. And there's a thing that, most people are ignorant to the fact of what's going on over there. Some people say that they're, the Ukrainians are a bunch of Nazis. I don't believe that. I'm not saying that there are not Nazis in the Ukraine, just like there are Nazis here in the United States. There's Nazis all over this planet. They're here, they're around, and, they're just a mute subject right now. They're very offensive to, but whatever. I don't believe that there's a Nazi faction that is being rooted out by Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin wants their oil. He wants their resources, their grain. The reason he wants their resources is because they're allying with China. And when China decides to invade Taiwan and piss off the rest of the world, they need the backing of somebody that can produce grain and oil and the resources that are necessary to attempt world domination. That is what that's about. When the Russians and the Chinese are aligning themselves with Iran, another oil producer, I think that's all they produce in Iran, that and death. But the Russians, they want a piece of it. So they thought that they could get Ukraine in 2 weeks, and it's not working out for them. But there's one thing that we haven't heard anything about, and that is peace. From this administration, there's just no intention of peace talks. They're just like, We're running out of 155 millimeter, and we can't produce enough. For what they fire in a day, it takes us a month to reproduce. I find that to be really scary, actually, because if you can't replenish your supply at the rate that you're supplying, you either need to ramp it up or learn a lesson. If we get into a conflict, we will be able to fire 5 times as much in a day than 5 times as much in a day than we will be able to produce in a month. So there's definitely that. Now, what I'm hearing is that these fellows are, what the heck is his wife doing? What is she doing? What I'm hearing is that Joe Biden has no intention of peace talks. He has no intentions of this because they're making too much money on munitions. They're making money on munitions. That's just a fact. There's money to be made in munitions and munitions manufacturing. So if I had, like a spare $100,000, I would go and I would invest in whatever. Oh, my wife just told me I was right. Well, there's something. Yes, corn borer. I told her there was a corn borer in there, or a root borer in there. She didn't believe me. So anyway, so if you got a spare bunch of money, go invest in the Singer sewing machine. That's what they're I believe it's Singer Defense. Mack has a defense division. Mack Truck has a defense division. Obviously AM General and these other companies. Just find out who produces munitions. Invest your money because we're going to be building munitions. Now, I would rather hear that we've got plenty of 155 millimeter. We're going to ramp up supply to replenish our supply, so in the event of a conflict with whoever, we have enough. And we're going to try and resolve this conflict between Russia and Ukraine as quickly as possible because there's no need for anybody to be dying. Now, here's where this is part political on this thing. So there's only one person that's saying, "Hey, we need peace in the world." And that's Donald Trump. It really is. And if you're a Democrat and you're watching what's going on in the world, and if you saw what the Russians did to the Ukrainian cities, the Nazi thing is a joke. Get over yourselves. There's probably a few of them, but get over yourselves. You don't need to kill women and children. You don't need to destroy a once beautiful country to further yourself so that you can amass a world domination offensive. That's where we're at. So this has happened twice before, but once before in a major way, and that is the Axis powers of Italy, Japan, and Germany. You want to talk about real Nazis? The Germans. They were Nazis, man. They were the original old school kill everybody for world domination Nazis. They wanted everyone speaking German, just fine. Germany, to that point, they were very tribal, from what I understand. I wasn't alive back then, but a little bit of history lesson will teach you that the Germans were tribal in their region, and they wanted to take over, everything. Poland, Latvia, Finland, all of those countries, Norway, France, obviously. They took Austria right away because Austria just joined them without joining them. They were, but whatever. That's what is aligning itself right now. China, Russia, Iran. I'm sure there's a few other countries like Cuba, and there's something going on down in South America, which is to me, a little too close to home. We've got the Chinese building a secret base on an island in Cuba. Why is that being allowed? It's a bunch of bullshit. It's 90 miles away from Florida, Cuba. So the Chinese are putting themselves into places strategically around the United States. We've got an open border to our south and an open border to our north, which nobody talks about, but it's an open border. You can cross that border anywhere. There's not even so much as a barbed wire fence. There's not even a thing that, the only thing it says is you've just entered Canada, go back to the United States, or you just entered the United States, go back to Canada. That's what that looks like up there. There's nothing to stop people from just pouring in from the northern border. The southern border is wide open, and they're being allowed to come in. And as of recently, there has been an awful lot of Chinese nationals coming across that southern border. Well, that just sounds like a silent invasion force to me. And I'm just some dumb farmer from New Jersey. But when you have a country that's making trouble in the world, setting up bases around, illegal bases, like an island in the Philippines that they built, and it belongs to the Philippines, and the Philippine government wants them out of there. I think they're out of there now, but whatever. They're aligning themselves in places, strategic places. They want to take Taiwan because we've allowed the Taiwanese to make our chips, our superconductors, and these processors and all this stuff. Instead of building it here, we just, it's cheaper to put the Taiwanese to work, and they can do it for less, so we'll just buy it from them. Well, in a perfect peaceful world, that's okay. But when you've got a world power, don't want to call them a superpower, but a world power that wants to take control of that chip manufacturing, which I like mechanics. I'd rather have a mechanical thing over an electromagnetic controlled thing. The electromagnetic controllers are great and everything when they work, but everything runs off of a computer nowadays. And if your computer goes down, you're screwed, and you can't even plant straight. You can't even plant straight. Kind of crazy, but whatever. GPS is dominant in the world for planting and harvesting and spraying and plowing and all aspects of agriculture. And if there was an EMP to be launched, or these satellites go down because of something that the Chinese or the Russians or whoever does to them, then you're going to have a bunch of crooked rows. We would get it planted, but there are farmers out there that their machines will not run without that computer. I personally have 2 corn planters that will plant corn, and a grain drill that'll plant beans and wheat without a computer. And I've got tractors to pull all of that stuff that doesn't have a computer, so I'm okay with that. But for the most part, the world's in turmoil, and it didn't become in turmoil until close to 3 years ago, right? We were having peace deals signed in the Middle East. We were having no issues with Russia. China wasn't even looking at Taiwan anymore. They always looked out of the corner of their eye because they want it back. But it just wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing because we had a leader in this country that wasn't compromised, couldn't be bought, wasn't bought, and won't be bought. And the world was at peace. We get this inept old piece of shit that's down in the White House right now with a crackhead son that brings coke into the White House. Whether it was him or not, he would be suspect number 1 in my book. The most secure building on the planet, or the supposedly most secure building on the planet. They claim that they can't tell or don't know who brought that cocaine into the White House. That's a stain on all the American people. That's our house. He's just a guest in that house, just so you know. That doesn't belong to Joe Biden. It didn't belong to Donald Trump. It didn't belong to George Bush. It didn't belong to Barack Obama or any preceding right up to Abraham Lincoln, because I believe he was the first one to live in the White House. Or at least it was being built at the time that he was president. So it's the people's house. It's our house. We pay for that. He is a guest in our house. And they have trampled and disrespected every single one of us that holds that coveted American passport. That blue passport, whatever the hell it is. I think I have it here. This thing. If you have one of these and it says United States of America, I'm a citizen of the United States of America. That was disrespectful to every single one of us. The only ones that won't be disrespected by that are the crackheads, the coke whores, and all the other nonsensical bullshit people that support that kind of activity. And so, and of course they can't find who did it. Give me a break, okay? Give me a break. It's the most secure building in the country for sure. And you're telling me that they don't have a camera that took the comings and the goings, and they know that there's 525 people that visited on that weekend the president, who supposedly wasn't there. He was there on Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Coke was found on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. They know. They absolutely do know. Dan Bongino was a Secret Service agent for 12 years. He said, they know. Donald Trump, president for 4 years, he said, they know. They're just not, they're not saying. They said that the investigation took 11 days. I say that the cover-up took 11 days, and then they announced that, oh, well, we can't find them. They know who did it. They do. It's one of two people. Two people in the Biden family that have coke addiction problems. And here's the ironic thing. If you're a person of color, we'll use the politically correct terminology here. If you're a person of color, black folk, African American, or just a dark-skinned American, because I don't really care for the African American label. They're not Africans, they're Americans. Unless you came from Africa, and got a U.S. citizenship, then you're African American. But if you were born here, you're an American. I don't care if you're Indian, Asian, African, whatever you want to call yourself. If you were born here, you're an American. Unless you're born by illegal immigration, then you are wherever it is you came from because your parents brought you here, and you need to go back with your parents. I don't care if you're 25 years old, you're not an American citizen. Those dreamers, as they call them. And you don't hear anything about the dreamers anymore. So what happened to that? Where'd the dreamers go? They stopped dreaming, or did they just say, keep quiet and we'll make this go away, just like the Coke and the laptop that the Russians had stolen from Hunter Biden, or Hunter Biden's laptop. And if you're hearing this shit for the first time, get out from under the rock you're in under and start listening to congressional hearings and what is really going on with our government right now. Congressional hearings are really easy to find. You can find them on YouTube. And they play them all day because those hearings happen all the time, unless they're in recess, then they don't happen. And then you can catch up on the ones you missed. But you go and listen to those and see what you find. There's so many things that are going on in this country right now that they are burying. Like when a submarine went down to the Titanic, and it imploded. Those people were like a tube of toothpaste. That's all it was, man. Kapow! Shot them out both ends of it. They're gone. So for a week and a half or whatever, we got to listen about, the poor billionaires who paid $200,000 to $250,000 to go down to the Titanic. They got squeezed out the end of a submarine because they were in something that was thrown together with super glue and Bondo. It was put together better than that, but not that much better because it was compromised and it blew the fuck up or imploded. It squeezed them out, killed them. So what happened on that? There was $6 billion more allocated to a war that instead of sending them $6 billion, they should have been sending diplomats over there to talk to both sides and see if they could come to an agreement of peace. But nobody wants peace because you can't make money on peace. They approved laboratory meat, 2 laboratories in California, to produce basically cancer for people to eat. So instead of having a living, breathing cow, we take stem cells and we propagate them. We feed them a protein of sorts that comes from grain and whatever else, protein, energy. And then they produce this mushy, cancerous cell, call it meat, and feed it to people. Well, I think it's a lot easier to just, raise your hogs and your chickens and your beef and milk your cows and eat that and become healthy than this crap that's being fed to the general public. I don't eat shitty food. People shouldn't eat shitty food. But the unfortunate thing is shitty food is what's available. And here comes my boy. Who's that? Hey, William, you're in your underwear. What's my boy doing? Did you come to join the party? It's cold in there. We got that thing 0? Yeah, Mommy's downstairs. Want to go see Mommy?
Yeah.
You got your underoos on? Anyway, hey, could you shut that door for me, please?
Yes.
That'd be really good. Thank you. So, they approved, what the hell else did they approve? I forget. But anyways, those two things should be appalling enough, because while you're not looking, we're going to do this. Oh, yeah. What they did was Hunter Biden got a pass on a gun violation that the whoever it was, the ATF dug a gun out of the garbage can across from a school that was bought by Hunter Biden using false information on a federal document that would land you or me in jail for no less than 10 years. 10 years if you falsify federal documents. He did that, and he got a pass. All he had to do was be drug-free for 2 years, and it'll all go away. Well, then the cocaine shows up in the White House, and nobody can find out who it is, because you know what? If it is him, and it is him, we all know it's him. We're not stupid. We know who it is. Who else would be that brazen? Oh, Dad's the president. What the heck? They ain't gonna do nothing to me. I'm Hunter Biden. I can get away with just about anything, like murder. It puts me in mind of Chappaquiddick Creek and Ted Kennedy. He got away with it. Democrats, they get away with murder, and that wasn't really murder that we know of, but Ted's dead, and so was the girl that was in the car at the time that he went and drowned her at the Chappaquiddick Creek. He never even went for help. He just let her die there. He was a piece of shit anyway. But yeah. Anyway, so that's what goes on behind closed doors. So whenever you see this new, latest and greatest emergency that we need to worry about, stop watching the news. Go to congressional hearings and see what they're passing. Congress, when they're taking that vote and it says yay, nay, take that vote, watch them votes and what they actually pass while John Q. Public isn't watching. It's staggering and crazy. But whatever. We're just here. We're just people doing our thing, getting fed crap. I mean, Camel Toe Harris, she turns around and says depopulation, reducing the population. I think she meant to say pollution, but reducing population was on the back of her mind. And people are getting sick from food. They're getting sick from this food. They don't know it, but they are. You ever go to McDonald's and you eat it and you're like, oh, I don't feel good. Holy shit, I hope I'm never going to eat there again. And then in a week or so, you're like, man, I'm craving for McDonald's, man. The McDonald's French fries, I want them. And you can't just buy the French fries, because you got to get the Big Mac. You've got to get that crispy chicken turd sandwich. You got to have that, or Burger King or Wendy's. Wendy's is dripping with grease. And then you eat it again, and you're like, oh. I just stopped by and talked to a friend of mine the other day, and I was telling him, I said, no, we only go to McDonald's if it's like we're starving half to death, and we should probably not do that, but we're always in a hurry to go someplace. It's good to get parts or do whatever if we're out on the road. If we take the motorhome, then we cook wholesome food that we bring from home. I do not buy anything other than, maybe bread or whatever from, say, grocery store en route. But we bring our own beef. I eat steak and chicken and everything that comes from home. I don't buy, we don't stop at the choke and pukes on the way when we go in the motorhome. But when we're in a pickup truck, say, heading out to Pennsylvania to get something, and we always have me, Teresa, and William, and he's always in the backseat, Daddy, I want chicken nuggets, It's like, all right, who's got the best chicken nuggets? Well, I like chicken nuggets. I do. I do. The McDonald's chicken nuggets, even though they're like 14% sawdust, I like them. They taste great when they're hot. When they cool down, they're just little hockey pucks. You could twang, you play tabletop football. You remember? Boom. You use those for that. You can put those in the back of your truck for 2 years, and nothing will eat them, and they will dry out and look just like they did, only a little bit less thick in the back seat of your truck for 2 years. I did that. I think I made a video of it. But anyway, stop eating that crap. It's crap. So as beef prices go up, fast food restaurants have to be really careful about their pricing. And you can't even go to Burger King. Me, Teresa, and William go to Burger King. It's 25 bucks. It is. It's 25 bucks. A Big Mac meal, and a kid's meal is 25 fucking dollars. You know, it's like, holy shit. And then you eat the hamburger and it's like falling apart. Why is it falling apart? Well, a Whopper or a quarter pound hamburger, say you get a quarter pounder from Burger King, that is just a criminal case right there. Quarter pounders used to be a quarter pound of beef, you know. Well, it's not a quarter pound of beef, because as the price of beef creeps up, they have to maintain their pricing. So what they do is they have to start out at a quarter of a pound. Remember a few years ago, the pink slime? Oh my God, they put pink slime in there. Well, it was some kind of phosphate preservative that they put in the meat, and it was a meat enhancer. So it would actually make the meat more of it, make it swell up. Yay. I want that, you know. So anyways, they got in trouble with that. So Burger King, they add water. So they take the meat in a slurry, they grind it all up, and they're like, okay, this is the consistency we want. And then they inject water into that meat, and then they make their hamburgers, and they start out with their quarter pound of meat. Well, what happens when you cook something? The water just evaporates or drips off of it, and you're left with what is left, which is this porous sponge of meat that they throw on a bun, that if you actually took the bun off and tried to pick the burger off of it, it would break apart, because there's nothing to bind it together. The water has melted away, and now you have this disgusting shit that has a binder in it, which is generally cornstarch or something like to that effect. Egg, they use egg to bind meat together, but you always feel crappy at the end of it. So it's like those TV dinners. You know, we were watching 90 Day Fiance, and there was a young lady, she's going to meet her lesbian lover over in England, and she's eating TV dinners. Oh, these are so good. Well, they're not good. I mean, they taste good. They got the right amount of salt and pepper and other flavorings in there to make you want to eat them more, because let's face it, Swanson ain't making those things to lose money. They're certainly not making them for health, to be healthy. And there's a lot of bachelors out there that buy that shit by the buckets. They just buy them by the box loads. There are crates of this stuff. And when they get home from their job, they're too lazy to actually thaw out a hamburger and fry that or whatever they want to eat. Now, I'm not saying all bachelors are like that, but it's much easier to slide that nice little prepackaged thing with the awesome tasting brownie into the microwave, hit 3.5 minutes. I believe that's what it takes. I haven't eaten one of those things in a lot of years, but a lot of years. I haven't eaten one of those over 20 years. They're just not something I want to have. Bird's eye, instant supper, you know. I'd have to eat 3 of them because I eat a lot when I'm hungry. But anyway, 3.5 minutes later, you got it. It's got mashed potatoes. It's got a hockey puck Salisbury steak or chicken or whatever the hell it is, with this corn that's dehydrated and half rehydrated, with a brownie that tastes great, even though it's got gravy guts on it. You know what I'm talking about. And you're like, man, do I eat the brownie first? Nah, you eat everything else. And you know that it's bad for you. I can't eat them, for one thing. It gives me a freaking headache, all the preservatives that are in it. And two, it's not healthy. It's not good for you. So I gave up eating all that stuff. And my wife, she's an awesome cook. I get cuisine, Japanese cuisine. I get Filipino cuisine. I get American cuisine. I get, and she makes it all. And I feel much better than I ever have in my life. I'm 51 years old, and I swear to God, I could beat my 30-year-old self up. I really do feel that good. I got a little bit of a belly because I eat so good. But, other than that, I feel great. So, and I don't have cancer. So anyway, that being said, there's just so many things that are going on in this country, and to depopulate us, they feed us shitty food. The medical industry is like how many $100 billion a year industry, and if you have healthy population, you can't make money in the health field. If you have a healthy population, there's no need for endless doctors and therapists and stuff. Used to be a doctor. He had a small town doctor. He dealt with broken bones. He did vaccinations like polio and measles, mumps, and rubella, and what the hell's the other one? Smallpox and shit like that. And that was it. No more. William, when he was born, it's like, oh, well, we got to inject him with this, and this. One time we went in there and there were 9 different vaccines that they wanted to give him in a day. And I said no. And the doctor's like, well, you're just going to traumatize him by having to bring him back here in a week to get that. It's like, he's 2. he can be traumatized for about a day. Stick him in the ass in a week or 2. And we did it that way. And he did get sick from some of these vaccines. When I was a kid, we got a few. Nothing big, tetanus. And I did have a tetanus shot the other day when I cut that finger. And it's healed up pretty good, I think. Just not the ring, next to the ring. You see that little black spot there? That skin stretches. And if I'm holding on to a steering wheel for a long time, it gets tight. And then when I do that, it hurts. But other than that, fully functional. No problems. The food is bad. There is a grand plan that everybody has a suspicion about, but they're not willing to admit that these people that are producing these food products. You ever look at a bag of something that you bought and said food product? It says food product on it. And then there's a list of shit that you can't pronounce half of it. I used to think that riboflavin was bad, but you can't live without riboflavin, believe it or not. If it doesn't say calcium, phosphate, magnesium, manganese, iron, what else do we need? Vitamin A, D, C, B12, B6, and all those other things. If you can read that on a package, that's what's in it. But when it gets down to the bottom and it says Goya gum and some word that's this fucking long and you don't know what it is and you're like, I can't even pronounce this. Oh, it's okay to eat it. You may as well eat this stick of deodorant. Right? Right. Eat the stick of deodorant, okay? It's probably healthier. And I do believe it's got alcohol in it. I know these things, you can ignite these things. That fragrance, what's in here? It's got isopropyl, polymoxin fragrance, trisodium, and this is another thing. I use this when my wife says you stink. For the most part, if I'm not going somewhere, I don't use this. But dipropylene glycol, sodium stearate, polymoxin 1307. So when you put these things under the most absorbent part of your body, your sweat glands, this shit goes right into your system. This is just a straight deodorant. I will never use an antiperspirant. And the reason I will never use an antiperspirant is because when I was in grade school, we had a teacher. His name was, why does his name slip my mind? He went to go coach basketball out at Kutztown University. Mr. G. I mean, what the hell was his last name? Anyways, he married one of the teachers there, and that taught me in the retards class, and because I was just too dumb to. Actually, I wasn't too dumb. I was a very intelligent kid. I just wasn't interested in learning about arithmetic and stuff like that. Even though I do math like every day, and other things every day. I'm always on math. I'm always doing equations in my head all the time. But not Osmond, that was later. Mrs. Ormosi. So Mrs. Ormosi married. It had to be. His name was Mr. Ormosi. No. Anyways, whatever. It doesn't even matter. I forgot it. It's crazy. I'm forgetting that name. He said, don't ever use antiperspirants. These sweat glands These areas of your body are to expel toxins from your body. When you use antiperspirants or antiperspirants, that seals the pores up and those toxins stay in your body. They will not do a study on antiperspirants and breast cancer because here's your sweat glands, toxins expel from here, and if you can't expel them, where do they settle? They settle in your breast. It's that area. 1% of breast cancer patients are men. I think it's 1%. It might be even higher. It could be 10%, but 1%. I heard it the other day, and it's either 1 or 10% are men, breast cancer. They will not do that study that these antiperspirants are the cause of breast cancer or a contributing factor, because Menon makes a shit ton of money on stopping people from smelling bad or even sweating for that matter. Yeah. So, but whatever. If there's money to be made, and these companies are making a lot of money, there's a politician that's out there willing to take that money to bury the facts of what these things can do to your body. And having sick people is good business for Capital Health, for the healthcare systems. I talked to a surgeon the other day. She retired. I farmed her land for many, many years, and she sold the property. And anyway, she called me up because my wife had sent her the farmland assessment form, and she's like, I don't own the property anymore. I was like, oh, yeah, I know. Anyway, she said that doctors that are coming out of the medical schools now, she says they're getting dumber. She says they are specialists in each field, which I like a specialist. I mean, if I've got if I've got an ailment, like I get, whatever. If I got an ailment, I would like a specialist to look at that particular part of my body, not a general practitioner that just, looks at your whole body and, is never really an expert in any one part. He just has a general overview of the human body, and he does know, or she knows what it could be, but they're not 100% sure, so they send you on to the specialist. Well, these healthcare systems are insurance companies that own the hospitals, that own the doctors. You sign on to the healthcare system. So when you're dealing with an insurance company that isn't being used by this particular doctor that you liked, that's because the doctor is signed on with a different insurance company that owns the hospital, that owns that doctor. Now, the hospital charges like $20,000 a night for you to be there. The insurance company, the hospital charges the patient to have, I'm just going to say, a mastectomy. You have a mastectomy, which is the removal of a breast. Just say it costs $100,000, which is probably a low number. You got the doctor, which you think is getting $100,000, which is not getting $100,000. You got the hospital, and then you've got the insurance company. So your insurance company is, gets billed by the hospital, which is owned by the same insurance company, right? And that doctor is a part of the insurance company. He's owned by the insurance company, and he gets a negotiated price. So this surgeon that retired, she says, back in 1985, the first, not my first mastectomy, but when I first started as a surgeon to remove breasts, and she did a lot of different things back then. She says, I was private. I was a private surgeon. I'd take out appendix and breasts and lumps and things like that. Anything that you needed removed, she would remove it and sew you back up and on to the plastic surgeon you went to fix the scars when she was done. She said in 1985, I got $2,500 to remove a lump, a mastectomy, a breast. 2 is $5,000. Well, you take a $5,000 for 2 breasts or 1 breast, $2,500. And in 1985, it was probably a charge of about $12,000. So of that $12,000, she got $2,500. Today, it's like $100,000, $125,000 to have the same breast removed. And because she was private, they paid her $500. She said, I got $500 for that. She said, where did the other $120,000 go? It went to the hospital. It went to the insurance company, which owns the hospital. and the doctor that did the surgery, you know, it's so fucking weird how this works. But there you go. There you go. And it's all, in my opinion, it's all just a money laundering scheme. You know, hey, we're going to get this. No, we're going to negotiate it to that. Oh, and if this guy doesn't pay, I went and got this finger stitched up. It cost me $250. I guarantee you it would have been $2,500 if I would have gone through the insurance company and all that other stuff. But I paid greenbacks, and then it was $250. Thank you very much. I got it fixed, and it works just fine. So, yay. Anyway, with that being said, I've been on here for 50 minutes. I need to get to work. It is 9:30, and I have shit to do. So, I don't know how much farming was in this thing. I don't even remember. But have a nice day.